Today, we'll be talking about the YouTube comment section. As a content creator, it can be a wildly toxic place for you to spend too much time in, but also there's all sorts of valuable information and analysis that you could take from it. Welcome to Catching You Up with
Nadav, it's okay, die.
I'd like to take this time to remind you to comment, like, and subscribe. It all helps the algorithm. I'd like to thank the executive producer of this episode, Wolfski Comedy. Without the big baller support of Wolfski Comedy, I'd probably be taking my pre-existing back condition and working at manual labor jobs and just kind of use that to, collect and compound workers' comp disability payments, and then just kind of keep on finding different injuries to obtain till I'm a Swiss Army knife of injuries. But because of Wolfski Comedy, I don't have to do that. And if you'd like to become a big baller supporter of the show, you can go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. So the YouTube comment section is arguably maybe one of the most toxic places on the internet right outside of Reddit, but it's Reddit adjacent, depending what point in your podcast career you're in. I don't know my Greek mythology very well, but if you talk to Medusa too much and you see her hair of snakes, which is all the comments in the YouTube section, you'll turn to stone, or even worse, want to kill yourself. Mental health-wise, it's not a great place to linger for too long, especially if it's a video that you made yourself. For the most part, no one gives a shit what Tub Thumper from Alaska thinks pretty much on anything that you do, but there are some reframes that you should take into account if you're actually trying to figure out how to put a finger on the pulse of what your community is thinking about you. Now, like I said, who cares what cousin lover from Illinois thinks about the lighting in your show or the glare in your glasses? Guys, I'm trying to bring the ring light back. But if there's one comment in your comment section that you don't like, that's just one comment, and you shouldn't dwell on it. However, if you're seeing a bunch of comments that are all kind of saying the same thing, that's when it's time to consider this might be what everyone is thinking about the show. I don't know any one of my personal friends that actually comments in a YouTube comment section. As long as you always kind of view it through that filter, it helps you take down the weight of any comment that you see that taps into your deepest insecurity. But there's a way to take a step back and have more of a bird's eye view on what everyone's actually thinking. Personally, this is how I've utilized the YouTube comment section at previous jobs. When an episode first drops, I will scrub through all the comments, literally all of them within the first couple hours of release, just to make sure that there are no technical problems with the actual episode. Hey, everything is out of sync. You don't need to hear more than one of those comments to actually double check, like, hold on, does this actually hold some merit? But if you have a solid quality control process where you are watching down all of your videos before they upload, for the most part, you should be able to catch most mistakes before it's upload time. But something important to consider too is that if one person is bothered enough by something to leave a comment, most likely they are representative of multiple people that are not leaving comments themselves. So depending on the nature of the comment, there might be a reason to take into consideration. But if you see a comment that's like, hey, these longer form interviews aren't for me, and that's buried in a whole bunch of comments that are like, hey man, I love this, that's something to compare and contrast and kind of figure out what your community is actually wanting to watch. But a great example of this is, I think it was around episode 480, somewhere in that range, where we started recording out of the new studio for YMH. This was in, I think, around 2018. YMH had built a whole new set that had the colors yellow and red on the walls. I remember the audience overwhelmingly hated it. Now, don't get me wrong, most podcast audiences hate any type of change that you do. Hey, this is different than what I'm used to. Fuck this, fuck you. In all honesty, you don't want fans like that. See you later, Tub Thumper from Idaho. But I remember the overwhelming consensus to the brand new YMH set. Why does this look like Judge Judy is doing her show out of a McDonald's? So we called our set decorators. We had them do a paint job, over the weekend that I had to go in and supervise and all that. And what we did was we just said, guys, we had a McDonald's sponsorship. We have now ditched McDonald's and we are now going over to Morton's Steakhouse because we're now having steakhouse vibes. For the most part, we just leaned into it. You figure out what the overwhelming consensus in the comment section is, and if you agree with it, you make changes. Don't run away from problems. Lean into them. And something that YMH really likes to do and still likes to do is troll their audience. If you're dumb enough to think that YMH had a McDonald's sponsorship, that timeline just doesn't work, you know? Now, luckily, we were filming one episode every week and we were able to kind of see what the audience was gauging as good or bad and run with it. Because another very valuable thing that you could get from the YouTube comment section is that jokes that you think are throwaway lines or videos that we play that we're like, this is whatever. In the comment section, you will see people overwhelmingly latch on to something that you didn't think was a really big deal in the episode. With filming one episode a week, you are able to react to what your audience is liking or disliking, and then make pivotal changes that allow you to react to that in a timely manner. The smaller your crew is, the more you're able to do that. The less scheduling conflicts you have, the easier you're able to do those kinds of things. Hey, let's take a quick break and tell you about the sponsor of this episode, SoundShed Studios, which is where I'm recording this episode out of. Are you in the Austin area and looking to start recording a podcast, but you're like, all this stuff is expensive and complicated? Well, it is. But if you're in Austin, you have an A to Z shop that will take you from production to post-production and give you all the assets that you need. And that place is SoundShed Studios. Go to soundshedAV.com and schedule your appointment today. Let's get back to the episode. Now, every show in the comedy podcast space does deal with some sort of scheduling conflict, especially if there's more than one comedian on the show. But not even necessarily comedians. Anyone that does a podcast, think about vacations that you take. Do you go out for a full week? Maybe 2 weeks? If you're really rich, maybe 2 months to escape the Texas heat. There are all sorts of reasons for you not to be able to record one episode a week of whatever you're doing. Now, there's ways around that where if you shoot things that you think are evergreen, meaning that you're not talking about current events and you're not talking about anything that would actually date the episode, you could get away with that kind of stuff. But when the feedback loop that you have with your audience starts to degrade, you're gonna have a much harder time giving the audience what they want, because you're recording 3 episodes in a day, you're tired by the middle of the second episode. However, you're losing that feedback loop where you're able to tell, this was a banger line from the previous episode, let's make sure to touch on that, find more content to build on it. You now lose that luxury. And that creates a disconnect, which is unfortunate, but this kind of leads me into the next subject of the comment section, and that's people responding to commentators in their comment section. You kind of need to do that to let the algorithm know that you're engaging with your audience and blah, blah, blah. And for the most part, what you should be doing is just engaging with positive comments and let people know, hey, if you say something nice, I'm gonna interact with you. But there's a lot of people that have a hard time with that, me included. But that's not healthy, which is why I've developed a rule for myself. No more than 3 dunks per comment section. And you need to be engaging with positive comments more than you're engaging with negative comments. Because all you're doing really is just letting people know you could really annoy this person by saying something negative. And then they're getting an interaction with you. This is a good time. This is not a good time to remind you to comment, like, and subscribe, but comment, like, subscribe. A lot of the times, the people that will say mean things to you are actually some of your biggest fans. Well, don't get me wrong. I've had people DM me some wildly anti-Semitic things. And it's like, look, dude, I talk to my friends this way because they know I'm joking. I know they're joking. I don't know if you're joking. And I don't fucking know you. So, I love me a good dunk. Here's kind of a case study in which I feel like it should never have gone this way, because I honestly love this musician. Whether or not we agree politically or not, Talib Kweli is half of Black Star, a great rapper in his own, like one of the all-time greats. But I followed him on social media for quite a while. All of his posts are just pointing out racists, and then anyone that disagrees with them, he just goes into a big old debate with them about why they're racist. And it's like, boy, this isn't really the content I came here for. When's the new Talib album dropping? This is, I'm just hearing you call people racists, and like, You're just sharing your political views. And granted, you're more than welcome to. This is America, you dumb son of a bitch. You can do whatever the fuck you want on your social media. You got to remember, why are people following you? And try and make sure that all of your posts cater to one of those reasons why people follow you. That starts creating a very toxic environment, and the feedback loop of all that is fucking terrible. I mean, just look at Fighter and the Kid. That's notoriously one of the most negative places that people congregate to talk shit about a show or comedians or whatever. Anyone that's affiliated with that podcast. And I'll say it is wildly vicious and for the most part, really uncalled for. The toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. But that's kind of the model that I'm seeing for a lot of comedy podcasts, where they start off with a really small, loyal group, and then they get big enough where, let's say the small, loyal group was all filled with really smart, funny people that they comment great, they engage great, they're super activated, they're down to do whatever the fuck you want. But then just something you'll do will look as a slight to them, and they'll turn on you. And that starts becoming the overwhelming voice. And it's all because you're in the comment section too much. And that's one of the most important things to remember, is that you could take it as seriously or as unseriously as you want, but just look at it as a feedback system. Like, what is the overlapping thought that all of them are having? But with that being said, it all really boils down to how are you analyzing and interpreting the feedback to your show? Because that's really one of the only places that you're actually seeing a comment section to what you're uploading. Everything on audio platforms, if it's a podcast, there's no comment section underneath there. There is one under YouTube, which is what makes it so powerful. So yes, I will say that the YouTube comment section is probably one of the most toxic places that you could go to find out what people think about your content. But, am I about to make a Star Wars reference? All right, here we go. When Luke Skywalker is fucking going down the Death Star, the tunnel where it's just like, oh shit, he goes a little bit to the left or a little bit to the, you know what? Fuck this. We're going with the new Top Gun. We're going to the Top Gun remake, right? Okay. No, see, but then that's spoilers. All right, we're going back to Star Wars. So you go a little bit left, you go a little bit right, you're going to clip your wings, and then you're going to fuck up your plane and your flight and your ship. You got to go in a straight line, maybe do some of these maneuvers, go up, go down, but make sure you don't hit those sides that clip your wings. And eventually you'll get to the end and you'll get those two little lightning bolts or Hadoukens into that little fucking thing that goes straight down into the center of the Death Star, and you blow up the Death Star. Now, that's a wildly stupid analogy, but I think you got the little bits and pieces. God, I'm not even a Star Wars fan. Yes, the YouTube section is a dangerous place to be, but there's quite a bit of value you could extract from it. Boy, what a fun episode. I was kind of shooting from the hip for most of that, and is that good? I don't know. I'll be skimming the YouTube section very lightly to see how much you guys liked it. But now's a good time that I'm going to regret to remind you to comment, like, subscribe. It all helps the algorithm. God, I'm shooting myself in the foot on this one. But I'd like to take this time to thank all the producers that you're seeing on screen right now. Without their help, it'd be much harder to put out these episodes as regularly and as well-ly as I do. And, without their support, this would be much more difficult than it currently is. This shit ain't easy. But if you'd like to become a supporter of the show, you can go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. And with that, I'd like to say, boy, what a fun episode. But also, I'd like to sincerely remind you.
This is a totally unconfirmed news.